This is 1,079 days. 1,079 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, the Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico. Which, when you have, let me see if I can turn some of this down. Okay. I am going to get on here. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, everybody. Not as late as last night, but I'm getting late because we're burning the midnight oil, researching all of the leads that we have been getting. And I want to say thank you so much to Team Find Richard Halliday for sending us leads. It's just, it can be a little overwhelming because we do not have, a huge office that's air conditioned with a large staff like the DA, like Bill Hicks would have. Bill Hicks could absolutely investigate. We don't have the resources that Veronica Escobar has because that's what we've given them. We've given from ourselves to give to them, you see, to do these jobs. And then when we need them, they're not there. They've been corrupted. They've been coerced into other things. They've been hamstrung. They've been, made impotent. It's it's very obvious because this should never be at 1,079 days. Never. Never. They should have all been on this to help us instead of staging a cover up. And that's exactly what happened. I remember William Timmons' man. That's our representative who's up to no good, y'all. He's so up to no good. Please do not vote for William Timmons, okay? He's up to no good. The worst kind. So, let's see if I'm on here. I remember William Timmons' man saying, don't say they know. Really? They knew. They knew so many things. And they withheld information from us. In our son's case, they held information that he was missing. They held information that he was a whistleblower. Can you believe that? That implicates Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Donna Martin, General McConville, because they all knew that Richard was a whistleblower, and they didn't tell us. General Garrett, he writes a letter for Christmas, but he doesn't tell us that our son was a whistleblower. And they didn't tell us that Clem Coward was relieved for this case. For this case. So, okay, so you have a 2-star general getting relief from duty. And we're just, as the days go on, because today we're going to talk about a judge. Okay? Yesterday we talked about Major General Clem Coward. The day before that we talked about General McConville. And, day after day, I'm going to tell you about what is going on. Because the elephant in the room is getting so big that people are starting to recognize it. They're starting to pay attention. It's like being in a traffic jam. When you're going, the traffic's pretty heavy, and you're going, you're like, okay, whatever. And then you might get, um, stuck in traffic for a little bit, and you're like, okay, whatever. But when uh, you're in it for hours and hours, and you just start to notice, and you start to say, what is going on? What is going on? And this is the elephant in the room, the cover up of the murder of our son. People are starting to notice, because, well, people have problems in their own lives when it comes to knowing people in the military, um, through all of this, and they're starting to recognize what's going on in politics. They're starting to recognize what's going on in our economy. They're starting to recognize how that has hindered, how that has sabotaged even their jobs. Um, and they're starting to put pieces together and see the elephant in the room. And so when they look at Richard's case and they go, why didn't they tell that family that their son was missing from the barracks room? This is a secure, highly secure military installation. Um, why didn't they tell the family that their son was a whistleblower? Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they tell the family who Nadal Bayim was right from the beginning? The FBI man employed by the FBI is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado of the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM. Richard's command, and that being the operations where everything happens. Nothing happens without an operational order. Why didn't they tell us? Why didn't they tell us? Because that's very important, because he confessed to a cashier that the FBI was looking for five locations. So they were rushing around trying to find all of Richard's remains, all of his partial remains, all of his fragmented remains. This is this is the allegation there. This is the words of an FBI employee, and they're saying, oh, he's nobody. Before we found out who he was, oh, he's nobody. He's a nobody. He's just a crazy guy. He's just a crazy guy saying that the FBI found the remains of your son in Mexico. Shh, shh. If he's a crazy guy, then why is he going shh? Right? If he's a crazy guy, why is he the father-in-law of someone with a lieutenant colonel with very high security working in G3 operations of the 32nd ATCOM? Right? If he's a crazy guy, why can't you tell us who he is? Why didn't you bring him in for questioning? That's people are starting to see that. And why is it that on a secure installation, we can't get CCTV footage? I mean, it went on and on. We had to stress we wanted CCTV footage. So they're starting to say, wait a minute, they were really smearing Richard, and now they're promoting him. What are they cleaning up? I was talking to a friend, and they were like, oh my gosh, they're cleaning up his file. They're cleaning up his file. Even he gets it. that by scrubbing Richard's file of the chaptering, by scrubbing Richard's file of all information of our prime witness, by scrubbing Richard's file of the field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment and then some, what are they doing? They're covering for themselves and then promoting him twice in December 2022, and then again 4 months later, April of 2023. There's a lot of irregularities, um, perversion. That's what that is. Stepping away from what's right. That's what perversion means. And my neighbor, I think my husband took it, gave us a sticker that said "No perverts allowed," because he absolutely knew that we understood what perversion is, what are perverts, people that step away from what's good and right, what's just, and that you can be a judge and be not right. And am I talking about our prime witness? No. I'm talking about Judge Robert Lee Shook. That's who I'm talking about. He is charged. He's commissioned to establish what is right and good, to judge fairly, to judge according to the laws, according to the regulations in the UCMJ, according to procedures, according to standard operating procedures. Make sure that's all being followed and right, and there can't be any deviations, right? I mean, I was lectured more than once about, they take underage drinking seriously. There cannot be any deviations from that, which is so insulting when you look at really, when you open your eyes and see how they are running our military and how they're running our service members into the ground with their deviations, with their criminal activities on top, their marketplace for illegal drugs. See, that's why they give these, this is my opinion now, why they give these $25,000, $50,000 enlistment bonuses, because they're just salivating. Let's put in some young girls. Let's create servers that we can put all kinds of porn on for sale. Young girls for sale. We've got another 14-year-old at Camp Pendleton and a 14-year-old at Fort Bliss living in the barracks, being prostituted out. The illegal drugs, the weapons. It seems like they're grooming our service members for compromise to crime. And it has become really clear. I wanted to play something for y'all today before I talk about Judge Robert Lee Shook and what I think is what's going on with the JAG there on Fort Bliss. Because, we have this little attorney that's so angry. Why? What, doesn't he have children? If his child was treated the way Richard was treated and he was treated the way we've been treated, I don't know if he could be more gracious than what we have been. And I think as an attorney, he would be asking a lot more questions than what we have asked, because it took us over 2 years to just ask about the warrant that was used to search our home. And that shook them up. But there's a weaker area here. There's a weaker area. The probable cause, yes, that is very important. The warrant used, whatever warrant used to bring the fugitive apprehension unit to our home in full battle gear. And we were asked, why didn't you ask for a warrant? We were told. But you see, this is where they get you. When you're in a fog of hell, when you're living in Hell Week, when you are grieving, when you are panicking to call different places because the Army has thrown you out after you find out that your soldier son is missing from Fort Bliss Barracks and that he's in nobody else's jurisdiction except for the Army, and the Army throws you out. They don't care at all. And everyone's saying, well, we can't help you because he's not in our jurisdiction. We can't help you. We can't help you. You have a lot on your minds during that time. We had a lot on our minds during that time. And don't forget, this is during COVID. So, offices closed, people not working, panic. It was, yeah, I tell you, very evil. And they told us that there was no passport in his items. See, because his things have been tampered with, y'all. There's things missing. And, you have to pick and choose what you're going to battle in this. And ours was, look, where's Richard? Where's Richard? That has always been the top priority here. So I wanted to show you a video before I go into this Judge Robert Lee Shook. And some of you might remember this. And it never made sense to us because you have this soldier yelling out. And you have to understand, he had to be yelling out very loudly because we were in vehicles that had speakers that were, playing music and saying, find Richard Halliday, find Richard Halliday. It was loud, right? And we were going through the neighborhoods and we had our bullhorn speaker up and everything. And here comes this soldier into his backyard and he's yelling at us, getting our attention. And so Rob stopped the truck and I hopped out. He was driving the truck. I hopped out and I went right over there to speak to this soldier that seemed to know something about Richard and seemed to be willing to say something about Richard. And, with what we had gone through And this silence is kicking us out in silence and everything. Um, we were eager. We were very eager to hear what he had said. So let me play this. Let me see if I can get it going. Um, see if I can. Okay. Yeah. This is a soldier that yelled out. I gave you the information. Hello? Hello? This is me. Hello? I was holding my phone down. It was videotaping. Sir? So it's upside down, of course. This is on Fort Bliss in El Paso when we were there. Hello?
Hi.
Hi. This man here just said something that he knew something about my son.
Uh-huh.
Are you the one that yelled it out?
Uh-uh. I
Do
don't
you know who lives here?
I do. He's my neighbor.
Yeah. Can I talk to him?
Absolutely. Knock on his door. I know he has kids.
I didn't want to ring the doorbell.
Yeah, he has kids, that's why. Yeah.
One, lower your voice. Two, what do you want?
Well, you were yelling out that my son was AWOL and that you had some information.
I don't have information.
Okay.
Between y'all and Fort Bliss, that's y'all's prerogative.
Yeah.
Like, whatever's between y'all and Fort Bliss is y'all.
Right.
All right?
Right.
Your son, I don't know where the flying hell he is.
Right.
All right?
I know. I know. You know, they never called us. They never called us.
That's not my problem.
Oh, I know, but if you knew something about him.
Here's the thing. I don't know your son. I honestly, if I had any information, Fort Bliss would have it.
Okay.
Thank you. Please leave.
Okay. You just gave me a little hope, and I thought, everybody's so afraid. Everybody's so afraid. Do you know anything about my son?
I don't. I apologize. I didn't even know they were calling this.
Yeah. So, is he normally that grumpy?
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
Oh.
It's okay, though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you might want to replay that. I know it's kind of soft too, but I hope you heard it. And it confused us so much because it was so schizophrenic. You know, he's coming out, he's screaming at us. Then we stop and ask him, and he's like telling us to be quiet, which, of course I understand. I have grandchildren, I have children. But he's screaming out. But the response from him is, I wish that you could have seen his face. He was so disturbed. He was very disturbed. And I think you can hear it in his voice and in his reaction. And I want to tell you this. It's starting to make a lot of sense to us why he's disturbed, because he did know things. You cannot react that way and say you don't know anything. Now, his neighbor, he didn't know. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm going to talk to you. Oh, a missing soldier. Oh, really? Oh, no, I don't know anything. You know, no stress, right? This soldier that was yelling out was clearly stressed out about our son and about us being there and about us asking questions. And it is curious now. It's very curious because, when you're a soldier in the United States Army, you never should react that way to a missing soldier's family. Uh, I don't know what kind of training they have, but I don't think it's that bad. I know it's bad. And I'm trying to shed light on the direction that it's going into that's causing all of these problems so that other families won't have to, and not as many families will have to go through what we've gone through. But I don't believe it's as bad as to create this kind of reaction without him knowing things. He clearly feels that we are like poison ivy. Like Richard's case is poison ivy for him, his family, for his well being. He's afraid. He was afraid. And he was disturbed. Clearly, I wish you could have seen his face. And he wanted us to leave. He wanted me to leave. Okay? And why is this so important? Because we know who he is. And I'm going to tell you, he's a paralegal. He's a paralegal. So where do paralegals work? They work in the legal assistance office. They work with JAG, right? Isn't that where paralegals work? So I wanted to present this today for somebody to tell me, where do the paralegals work on Fort Bliss? Because the JAG were absolutely involved with the IG, with the CID, in the cover-up, with the command, going all the way up. They were involved in the cover-up of the murder of our son. And it's clear when you look at what we have on General McConville, when you look at the timeline of Clem Coward, and we have more on Clem Coward because there's conflicts of interest there, y'all. Okay? And this, I said Colonel Davis. Sorry, I misspoke. It's Major General Davis. I believe Johnny Davis. Two-star General Johnny Davis. So, who was in talks because he had oversight. You see, the Major General Johnny Davis at the time had oversight. And he has also some interesting connections that, y'all, it's just, and they did not bother to tell us that Richard was a whistleblower, that Clem Coward was being relieved because of his involvement in the handling of our son's case, that he is the one that is responsible for us not knowing about our son being missing because he called off the search for Richard, which would call off the protocols. He did not follow the protocols. He did not make sure that the family was notified. That's very suspicious. And yet, Major General Johnny Davis didn't even make sure. He has oversight. He didn't make sure that family was contacted. Because I told yesterday the timeline, which is so revealing. Let me see if I can. The meetings, September 5th, 11th, 14th, 17th. Why, if he's meeting with Davis during that time, why isn't Davis making sure that we know that our son is a whistleblower, that our son had a conflict of interest with Clem Coward? Why did they lead us to believe, and even still today, that Gomar, absolutely the Gomar should be rescinded when the very major general that gave it as a retaliation is, I believe, implicated in this case with Richard. Conflicts of interest, big time. And so there had to be, with, and we have a couple confessions too. There might be more confessions, but we have 2 confessions in the murder of Richard. And, we have been in contact with Judge Robert Lee Shook of Fort Bliss. He presided over Asia Graham's case, over those all of those proceedings, which is important information. And we have been in contact with him not with us, but us with him, and we have questions, important questions. And he's, I think he's committing a crime by not answering us. Where are the answers? And just because they want to terminate any kind of relationship that we have with the Legal Assistance Office also is criminal. Because we absolutely have a right to know what was the probable cause, what was the warrant in order to search our home. We also have the right to many things that we are requesting, but to understand why our prime witness is restricted from entering Fort Bliss. That could absolutely find out what happened to Richard very quickly, because of being a judicial officer. So we have, of course, key witnesses, and then it's not just one key witness, right? But so I looked, what is this judge doing, Judge Shook, right? What is he doing? Because there's so many irregularities with the handling of Richard Halliday's case. And it's going to undermine our military. It's going to undermine our confidence, especially in the whole legal system. It's going to undermine the public trust even more so, because there are definitely irregularities in Judge Shook's handling of our son's case. And we'll try to write another letter. But I can tell you this, that there's a conflict of interest. There is procedural irregularities. There are biases because of the conflicts of interest in the handling of, and these are all allegations that I can't come on a live stream and just put this kind of stuff out with nothing to back it up. Okay? We have the information to back it up, and we sent it to him. It's like sending the FBI and the CID the video recordings of the CCTV footage of Nadal Baim saying exactly what the video recording testimony of the cashier at the Dollar General, what she said the FBI employee said. So, we're sending it all in, just like we sent in all the traces of those vile, vulgar numbers that were sending us vile and vulgar messages. Just like we sent in and we put in an official complaint. We haven't heard anything back with our official complaint against the MP guard mount and the soldier MP that participated in the smear campaign and the sabotage of the search for a missing soldier, our son Richard Halliday. These are serious charges, and we have absolutely proof from them. And we haven't heard back from Leilani Hartz. There's so much to that, y'all. And we've been so kind because we contacted the notary public, who confirmed that he notarized that complaint, had it in his hand on the 22nd of July, 2020, the day before Richard vanished. So there's a small group in the CID, Tavita Nusa, who was assigned to Richard. Okay, because Richard was a whistleblower. We were never told that by Marlon Soto. Marlon Soto, let me tell you, it's not good. We have an official complaint out for him. Why didn't he, instead of smearing our son, tell us the truth? Right? Tell us that Richard was a whistleblower, that he was assigned to Tavita Nusa, that Tavita Nusa, special agent in the CID, retaliated against Richard, confessed it. Confessed to the leaking of Richard's file, tampering with evidence, and bodily injury. And we haven't heard anything back. This is the elephant in the room, you see. Because people are starting to say, wait a minute, this mother is getting on there, putting her life at risk with no protection from the DA, Bill Hicks, no protection from Veronica Escobar, who's too busy looking in the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. She gets some kind of award for mirror, mirror on the wall. For being a good cover-up agent for criminal syndicates. Absolutely. What do you think is happening at Fort Bliss when you have a 14-year-old girl being allowed, this is a secure installation, and a 14-year-old girl that has more information that I'm not at liberty to say, that is being prostituted out in the barracks and having to suffer night after night after night in a barracks of young men full of vim and vigor being prostituted out to them. Where's Veronica? Where are her tears for young girls? She's too busy looking in the mirror, y'all. And doing the cover-up business of these criminal syndicates. Oh, yeah. So, people are looking. Who is this woman, this mother, that's saying these things day after day after day after day, night after night, burning the midnight oil, and and they're not doing anything? Where is Judge Robert Lee Shook's response to us? Where is his response to the probable cause, to the autopsy reports? Because think about it. If he has, if he's covering up for the Army the remains of our son, if he's covering up, if the Judge Robert Shook, is covering up the fact that the Army decided to hide the remains of our son, and Veronica Escobar is doing that, and the FBI is doing that, and the AUSAs, including Bill Hicks, is doing this. That they think that the elephant is going to go away. But the elephant is getting bigger and bigger. Because as the truth comes out, it feeds the elephant. It gets bigger and bigger. And the judge is looking really bad right now. Judge Shook is. Because how did he not know about this when he's involved in the case, when he's involved in the probable cause affidavits, when he's involved in the warrants, when he's involved in the procedures, the processes? There's a bias problem. There's not fairness, right? There's not the proper legal procedures being carried out. No, they and there's a lack of transparency. Where is where is his response to us? It should have been in a day. In a day. He should have made sure that he gave us explanations for the judicial decisions, his decisions. He needs to justify his decisions for violating our civil rights. And there's more. Because if he's proceeding over this with probable cause affidavits, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if he is proceeding over Richard Halliday's case with probable cause affidavits and warrants and he is not considering relevant evidence like our prime witness and implicating the CID in the disappearance and bodily harm of our son, if he is failing to consider that relevant evidence and not arresting, not investigating, not uh, doing what judges do, then he is denying us our due process. And I think that's why the paralegal was so upset. He's not dumb. I think the paralegal, yeah. Of course, they smeared Richard unjustly. Because look at his response, the paralegal's response. I don't know where the F your son is. What does that mean? He, what does that mean? He was clearly nervous, clearly disturbed, clearly did not want to be in the presence of us. So that, I think that speaks volumes. So there's been, to me, I'm alleging that Judge Robert Lee Shook of Fort Bliss has deviated from the standards that we have, the legal standards that we have, the established legal standards that we have, and the procedures in the handling of our son's case. There's been a deviation from it. So, where is the oversight of that? Where is, now, you would think that Major General Davis would say something. You would think that Lieutenant General Bernabe would say something. You would think that Lieutenant General Donna Martin would say something. You think that General McConville would say something. Because the judge is only a colonel. We wrote Rob knows, the judge's boss. That's there in D.C. The IG or the JAG, the head of the JAG, whatever. I need to get better briefed on that office so I can say it right. But this is absolutely clear that our Department of Justice, the JAG, is in cahoots with the CID in the cover-up, in the violation of Richard's rights, in the violation of our rights. What are we going to do about it? There's no transparency. There's no due process. And where is, so if you have certain connections, you can make the JAG, you can make a judge deviate from our established legal procedures. You could do that and get away with it. You could deny due process and show that kind of bias and get away with it? Because I think that is a breach of judicial ethics. And, and I allege that Judge Shook, in my opinion, has violated judicial ethics in his handling of our case. Because remember, our rights have been violated as well as Richard's rights. Now, I count Richard's much more important in this case, but I think it's worth mentioning that this is a double case now. It's a double case, you see, because it compounds. The crimes compound. And that's so troubling, because that's why we're here. Because see, used to be you could be a whistleblower, but the crimes, oh, you're taking pencils or you're taking pens or whatever, you can't do that, right? No. Right now, the whistleblowing is so serious and the crimes are so big and so serious and so criminal that the criminals are willing to commit murder. They are murdering our whistleblowers. And they have people in our institutions like Bill Hicks, like the AUSA, like Jaime Esparza, like Veronica Escobar, that will go along with the criminals, that will protect the criminals, that will cover for the criminals, like General McConville, who's a huge criminal in himself. He's committed crimes against humanity. Like General Garrett, who's a total criminal. Like Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, who's in charge of Fort Cavazos, Fort Hood now. Clem Coward is retired. I mean, these are when I came to the conclusion, probably like more than a year ago, that our 44 four-star generals are committing crimes against humanity, that they are serving foreign and domestic enemies instead of defending our Constitution. And I thought, when I had enough information that made that very clear that I could say that, I had to really pray about, could I say that publicly? Because there's so many that at that time were not ready to even believe that. I got a lot of pushback. But I'm going to tell you, I'm sticking to what I said. Our 44 four-star generals are up to no good. They have betrayed us. They are serving foreign and domestic enemies instead of doing their duty and defending the Constitution, because they would be able to click heels together. They would be able to get this judge out of there, or this judge would never even feel emboldened or pressured, coerced, whatever happened in the case. Because many of these professionals in high places are coerced. They're just trying to keep their job. And I think even threatened, because the retaliation is so bad that they threaten from the highest places. And in Richard's case, there's a huge trail of retaliation, continuous and severe retaliation against Richard for what? Nothing, y'all. Nothing. Nothing. He did nothing wrong. And we're going to get to that. because there's more to that. There's more to that. But they immediately, after he complained to the Child Protective Services, which triggered the IG to be all over the barracks because of Halliday, and of course the CID getting involved, and Tavita Nusa being assigned to him. This is all of what we are being told. This is all leads coming in. And we turn all this stuff in, and then we get on every night and we say it. And we invite people on like Leilani Hart. I want to know, Leilani, how, if this was going on in your household since the 1990s, how could you let it go on for so long? How could you let it go for so long that your son, Dallas Hart, is in an incestuous relationship while he is wearing the uniform? I mean, in any way, but while he's wearing the uniform. How can you let a child be sexually assaulted in your master bedroom for so long without coming forward? Where is your sense of right and wrong? And why did CID, because when I talked to James Hart about these allegations against him, about the child pornography, right? That Leilani Hart. Now, I didn't talk to him about that, but he told me about this case. He told me that he was under investigation about this, and he said, they cleared me. Who cleared you? Your friends? Your friends, Tavita Nusa? Marlon Soto? Who was looking into this? Was the judge informed about this? Who in the FBI? Because that was an FBI complaint. Who cleared him there? I mean, it's just why? And we have confessions. We have confessions, and they didn't even tell us. We have to find out ourselves that there is confessions. We have to find out ourselves that Richard is a whistleblower. We have to find out ourselves that Richard handed in sex videos. We have to find out ourselves who Nadal Baim, the FBI man, is. We have to find out ourselves who Anthony Swafford is, that the law enforcement agency was getting briefed that Richard was some kind of Al Capone wannabe with this funny money stuff, which was all lies. And if they do it to Richard, how many other soldiers have they done it to? That's what I want to know. All this with I mean, this kind of crime, snowballing with all these other crimes. There has to be so many of our service members that have been falsely targeted, falsely retaliated against continuously, severely. So many that have been harmed in this kind of, I just call it band of robbers, criminal syndicate. And why do I call it that? Because I love St. Augustine. I love his teachings. And he says, a land without justice is a band of robbers, is a criminal syndicate. And Judge Shook is not giving us justice. I think he has breached judicial ethics. And the media can sing his praises all they want because they're compromised too. We know that with Miss Korcherga. I witnessed her being compromised. I got the brunt of her being compromised, her being biased, and El Paso Matters gets tax-free status because they're supposed to be unbiased. And that's why, because it was so shocking speaking with her and witnessing her bias firsthand, not third party, firsthand. I'm a witness to her being biased. So the media is not covering the breach of judicial ethics, the lack of judicial impartiality, the violation of rights, victims' rights, defendants' rights, inadequate judicial oversight. The deviation from established legal standards. And so I'm saying, why that judge, and I think it's been 2 weeks since the last communication that we sent him. And why won't they answer about finding Richard's remains? Why won't they answer about the confession of bodily harm from within the CID, a CID special agent? Why won't he answer so many of our questions concerning the illegal search on our home? That shouldn't be difficult unless you're going to be in cover-up mode or unless you did breach judicial ethics. So I'll take any questions now about this. So we know that General McConville is implicated in this. Okay, the staging of Task Force Find Richard Halliday is just appalling. And what's even more appalling is talking to us over the phone and not informing us that Richard was a whistleblower. Okay? Not telling us and informing us that Clem Coward is also implicated in this and has been removed from his command from 32nd AgCom. We know that Clem Coward terminated the search for Richard and then got into big trouble. We know Jay Paulin was up to no good. We know that Captain Park is up to no good. We know that the G3 of the 32nd AgCom was up to no good. We know the FBI was looking for Richard's remains in Mexico. What Mexican official put a stamp on that? That the FBI could go rummage around their country, that the FBI from another country can come in to their country and look for bodies, look for remains. And the State Department confirmed that the FBI were indeed looking for Richard's remains in Mexico. We know that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe was looking for Richard's remains at Training Area 244, the mock Afghanistan village right there on Fort Bliss. And where is the transparency on that? Why didn't he brief us? Why wasn't, we know why Stewart wasn't briefed, because he was rushed in on a jet plane, I think, to take the place of Clem Coward. And this is definitely a collusion, a conspiracy behind the scenes to cover up the murder of Richard Halliday and the dismemberment, the finding of his remains. They absolutely, this is my opinion from everything that I have, and the lack of what we have. And the fear coming from a paralegal, the fear coming from the legal assistance attorney, the fear, it's huge. The fear coming from Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz. I've always been like, and he's probably going to laugh at hearing me say this, but I've been on his side in Team Find Richard Halliday, where people don't have any mercy for him for what he did. And I'm not saying don't have any mercy. They have some, but they are upset, okay? My dad absolutely pointed a finger at Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz for a very good reason, and we need that. But I've always had this, okay, he's been coerced because he was shaken like a leaf. How can you have, he's not a psychopath. He was absolutely upset about what happened. And yet he made wrong decisions after wrong decisions after wrong decisions. He didn't have the courage to undo the wrong, even though he knew it was wrong. Because he absolutely knew it was wrong, because he said, and had even Jay Pollan, well, maybe Jay Pollan wanted him to say something he wasn't supposed to say, and he made the right decision. I mean, he was walking a tightrope. But he did not brief Brigadier General Stewart properly. No. I can't even imagine working with Clem Coward, knowing what they knew, bringing in the girls during the COVID, having the barracks flush with weapons. 7 suicides in 7 months this year. So far, we're in July. Yeah, let me answer questions. Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you, Grace, for your love and your prayers. Danielle, if there is a breach, they will stop all contact, in my opinion, to try to save their behinds. And that's what they did. But they can't. This is what they do. They say to you, you can't trace a burner phone, but you can, because we did. They say to you, oh no, he's just some guy, and they think they'll never find out who he is because he was wearing a mask. They'll never find out who he is. And we went to a meeting. They knew exactly who he was. We went to the meeting to tell them who we thought it was. They went a little crazy because we were wrong. Because we were brainstorming, and we did not publicize it. We wanted them to tell us who this FBI man was. And they knew. And when we found out, we knew they knew. So they're so implicated on so many different levels when it comes to this case. that they just have to, in order to save their skin. I mean, I guess they have the right to self defense, maybe, but I don't know. What they're doing is hurting our military so bad, which is hurting our country so bad, um, which is also hurting our service members, and they're just up to no good. Otherwise, if they have nothing to hide, they wouldn't be impartial, in my opinion. Absolutely. And so that's what's happening. People are starting to go, "What's going on? Why don't they just answer the lady's questions?" Um, because they know anything can and will be held against them in a court of law. Yes, and if they say there was a change in leadership after Richard's disappearance in court, they will say this is what they did to change things after his disappearance to make sure this doesn't happen again. Yeah, in my opinion, yeah. They can try, but when you bring them to court, they will have to answer. It's their scapegoat tactic. Absolutely. And that's why they scrubbed Richard's file, right? And that's why they promoted Richard, right? They want to seem like, oh, well, we covered up that he was a whistleblower and continuously severely retaliated against, and my good friend said waterless, waterboarded, and then you know, um, kidnapped, tortured, murdered, dismembered, and then the cover up of not even giving us our son's remains. Yeah, it's serious business, and um, we have, made allies. We have an alliance within Fort Bliss now, and so we have intel, which is very important in all this because we have boots on the ground, and there's more, and there's more. So there's things that I'm not at liberty to say, but you absolutely, you're not going to be surprised. I can tell you that. You're not going to be surprised. You're going to say, oh, yeah, that makes sense now. I just want to say that they continuously, severely retaliated against Richard. And and it was unjust. Unjust. So, so thank you all for coming on tonight. Um, and it's really important to share this information because we are being shadow banned. It's very clear that we are. And so to share is very, very helpful. Thank you. And don't forget, if you want to, if you feel led to write Major General Eisenhower a letter to find Richard Halliday. He needs to know that we have his back. He needs to do the right thing. I hope that he doesn't rub shoulders with McConville. I really do. I hope he doesn't try to be another Bernabe. I hope that he stands firm. And it's interesting that his name is Eisenhower. Maybe he'll stand firm. Maybe he'll be strong. So his name is not McConville, right? Or Coward. It is Eisenhower. And so we'll see. We'll see. So thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.